Brad here, and we're going to cover one of my favorite items within MetaField, and that's configurable columns when you're looking at existing data. There's a few different areas that we're going to hit on. We're going to look at this from kind of a project manager's perspective as well as a field technician. So let's first take a look at what we're actually going to be adjusting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into quality control here. I'm going to kind of put the hat on as a project manager that may want to review some data. So I am going to drill down into our activity area, and I'm just going to open up a kind of a dummy project that we have in this case here. And so what we're going to do is we are going to look at some of this data. And what we have here is kind of a review screen, right? We have various different types of forms, different activities that have all come into my kind of my dummy project here. What I'm talking about in terms of configurable columns, it's actually this table that you see. Now, the reason we might want to adjust these is that because there's likely more data here underneath each one of these forms that we might want to bring up to this table without having to open up the individual record. So let's just kind of look at this as an example. I'm going to just simply click edit on this one individual form record that we have. And of course that we can see here there's going to be a lot more data behind the scenes, such as travel time, total time, weather, things like that, the actual service performed. So anyway, more data when you open up an individual record. But what I want to do is alter this table so that I can see maybe some of those high-level data points here without having to open up the individual records. So how do we do that? That's what we're going to take a look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the very beginning here of MetaField to show you where you can configure this. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up administration. And from here, we're going to go underneath a tab called activity. And then there's a secondary tab called search results display. And this is what we're going to select. So once we open up this area, there's going to be a lot of options here on this top table. And each one of these does something different. So if you haven't been around in this area before, I encourage you to explore it. But the one that we're going to be altering right now is going to be this one right here called QC activity search results. That's actually the area that we are in on the project manager side. So if we flip back to my other tab here where we're looking at records, we're in quality control of activity, and then we have this table down here. We just call these search results. That's really all it is. So that's kind of the same breadcrumb name that we see here, QC activity search results. It's referencing our table. So when we scroll down a little bit, now that we have that selected, we're going to see our area fields. These here are the columns that are presented to me on my review screen. So you can see we have activity number, date, inspector, and discrepancy status. There's a couple of static ones that we'll see, but the other ones we're going to have an opportunity to configure. So again, there's activity number, date, inspector, discrepancy status. These are the two that are going to be a little bit more static, that are going to be kind of stapled there for me to access the form. But if I want to alter this, how do I do that? Well, what we might want to do first is actually look at what fields we want to bring up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump back to this screen. And to add a column, all we really need to do is simply click Add Field. And you notice here, as we open this up, it's going to present me all of these system names. So what are these, right? We need to figure out what these are and where they're coming from. Well, what we want to do is maybe consider the form itself that we want to bring the data to. So I'm going to come back to this screen here in a moment. But what I want to do is actually look at the form. In other words, this right here, our daily activity report, and reference the fields that I want to bring to this table. So I'm going to find this form in question. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to go back into administration. And now we're going to just go underneath activity and click forms. And so what we have here is my form designer system, or area I should say, and I'm going to locate that daily activity report that I built out. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into, I think I have it underneath field forms. Yep, so here it is right here. So I'm going to drill down into the form that an admin might use to alter it or create a form. So we're looking at this specific daily activity report, and this is the column that we actually want to reference. So notice that there's a system name column. We have things like total travel time, total time on site, there's weather. These are the fields that we're actually going to reference when we're creating our columns for our review screen. So in this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of these. I'm going to pick, maybe the weather column. I'll pick total time on site, and then also maybe this one, service requested performed. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get back. So we're going to take a shortcut, activity again one more time, click search results display. And as we do that, we're going to go right back to where we started. We're going to click QC activity search results. And here are our 4 columns. So now let's come back here and we're going to click add field. And we're going to look for some of those system names that we just looked at the form level. And you certainly can type here a little bit to help the system get you to your list. But there's the weather field. Okay, so now I can give it a label. Again, we'll probably just call it weather. And hit save. Let's do that total time. So again, I'll select my drop down here. Let's see here. And these are all custom fields that we've created. So we'll do total time on site, call that one the same name. Hit save, and then let's do that other one. Let's do service requested performed. Let's see. There we are. I'm just going to shorten the name. We're just going to call it service requested. So let's go ahead and hit save. All right. So now I got my columns. I could even reorder them if I want to. Maybe for whatever reason, I'm going to put the weather column towards the end. Just kind of place that there. So we just shifted those around a little bit. So now we have our columns, right? Let's go back to that QC screen as if we're a project manager. So we'll just shift gears back again. So we're in quality control, activity, underneath our review screen. So what I'm going to do here is I'm simply going to hit refresh on my browser, and something should happen. So suddenly, as we refresh our screen here, we now have our various columns as this loads. There we go. So there's total time on site, service requested, and weather. So now suddenly I have all of this data here that wasn't available to me at this level, at this table. So again, what you can do is you can bring up information here so it's visible without having to open up the individual record to discover, what the weather was or what type of service was requested. Again, maybe you're looking at this one where it says discrepancy status. If you're not using a column, you can certainly get rid of that. One of the out-of-box ones I think is either location or location details. If you're seeing that that's empty all the time, well, it's probably a field that you're not using. So my suggestion would be to clean it up. So in this case, if I'm not tracking discrepancies here, maybe again, I'm going to take a shortcut back to that same area. I just have 2 tabs open, by the way. Here's discrepancy status, right? Well, we can certainly just get rid of that, and that might open up the opportunity for me to apply a different field. So we're just going to refresh our screen again, and now notice how it's gone. So we have a little bit more real estate on our table for maybe a different field. Okay. So that's helpful, right? But if you want to take it to the next level, you're also going to have the opportunity to do this for common forms. So in other words, if I go over here and I just simply click on daily activity report, or I could even filter it right here for that specific form. If you notice here, if I click daily activity report, actually, I don't think that was a good example. Let's try something else. Let's try this site observation, right? Let's click that one. There we go. So notice here, I clicked site observation, right? And now suddenly these columns changed again. So now what you're looking at is columns specific to a individual form versus all of the forms. Again, that's going to help you bring up information throughout your review process. So it doesn't have to just be at a global level, you can do it at a form level. So how do you alter this now? We're going to take a similar approach, but we're actually going to do it at the form level. Okay, so maybe let's just look at the site observation as an example. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to, we'll start from the home screen. And in this case, we are going to, I always like to start from the home screen. We're going to go back into administration and we're going to open up that site observation and we're going to adjust some things. So again, open up admin. We're going to look for activity, go forms because this is where my site observation is located. I think I have it underneath this inspections and observations folder here. So we got that. I think it's back here. Yep, there it is. So I'm going to open up the site observation form itself. So this is again is where you can adjust this individual form or even the report if you want. But what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and click this button. So again, notice that I've drilled down into this site observation form. So anything I do here is specific to this form. So let's come here. We're going to click form settings. And I actually have it, I already have it applied, but there's going to be a setting here called QC search results. That should ring a bell because that's what we just covered a little bit ago, right? It's that QC search results. The search results is the table that you're using as a project manager to review data. So if you don't see that here, just come up to this little green button and you're going to have some options to choose, right? You're going to see it presented here. It's going to say QC search results, just like right here. Then you have the opportunity to add it, and this again is where you can drag and drop your fields that are specific to that form into the column. So if I wanted to include temperature or anything else, let's just do, there's total time again, right? We can bring that one over. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay, so I've just updated that. Let's go back to quality control. So I'm going to take a shortcut. Again, I have another tab open. So here we are, right? We're filtering for just that specific form. You can either put the filter here or click on the form itself, right? If I hit clear here, all my results are going to show. But if you want to just look at the site observation, let's go ahead and click this. And you'll see here that now I have a couple of extra fields, including total time. So now these columns are going to match exactly what I altered at the form level right here. So there's that total time and temperature as well. Okay, so quite useful. The last thing that I just want to talk about is this type of flexibility is also available within the field module. So for your field technicians, if they need to look at previous records, something that a technician or inspector filled out yesterday or even weeks before, we can kind of do the same thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bounce out of here, out of quality control, and we're going to open up the field module. Okay. So as we do that, a lot of times technicians like to look at, like I said, previous day's records. So I'm going to go to that kind of a similar area. We're going to open up activity. And what we'll do is I'll click manage activities, okay, because this is going to allow me to look at previous test results on this particular project. So let's go ahead and do that. And what are we seeing here? Well, first of all, at the top of our screen, these are going to be filters. So these are customizable. We can show you how that works in a second, but they're going to help technicians look for a specific record, right? Show me the ones that have been completed or which ones have discrepancies. Maybe they just want to look for the ones that, a particular technician maybe themselves have looked at. So that's what these are. These are filters. And then down here are the actual records that technicians have filled out on this project. So it's kind of the same concept. All of these fields that you see, if you think back to what we were talking about with that table for project managers, it's really the same thing. Think of each one of these labels as a column on your table as a project manager. It's just rendered a little bit differently. So see how I kind of have these unused columns here? They're empty. Well, we can adjust these. Again, that allows you technicians to view data without having to open up the record itself. So certainly I could click into this record, right? And I can see the data that the technician filled out because it's the actual record itself. But what if I don't want to do this for every, as soon as this loads here, there we go. What if I don't want to do this for every single form, right? Maybe there's things that I want to boil up on that previous page without having to open up the individual form. We can go ahead and do that. So where do we do it? Well, what we're going to do is go back to that same area that we started in. Okay, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to take a shortcut back into administration. And actually, I'll start from the beginning again. So here we go. Let's go into administration. And we are going to go in that same area, activity, search results display. And what we're going to do is, last time, remember we came here and we clicked QC activity search results, right? This time we're going to go into field. So field search results. So let's go ahead and select that. And notice here where it says filter, right? So you have the opportunity to leverage other areas such as those filters that we were just looking at. But we're going to start here, field search results. And look at that. So again, we have weather, service, narrative, remarks. That should match what we're seeing out in the field. So maybe we want to make some edits to this. Let's click add field. And for whatever reason, let's just grab some of the same ones that we were working with before. I think it was total time on site. And go ahead and hit save. And this time, let's get rid of some of these unused ones. You know, remarks, narrative. Maybe we just call that good for now. So I've added that one, right? And again, it's the same field that's on my form. So let's come back into field here and open up manage activities. So as we do this, let's scroll down a little bit. There we go. There's my total time, and I got rid of a couple of the other unused forms, or excuse me, fields. So again, these two are flexible. So again, just think about what fields might make sense or might be useful for your technicians to look at this level where they don't have to open up the individual form. It saves time in the long run. And like I said, again, these filters are going to be customizable as well. And you guessed it, it's in that same area. So it's not just restricted to columns, which really has been the focus of this little how-to video here. You also have the ability for filters. So if we come back here, field manage activities filters, same thing. These are all filters. So you can do the same level of customization up here that you can down here. Okay. So hopefully this has been helpful. The last thing that I just want to mention is that right now I am presenting to you, let's go back to the very beginning here. I'm presenting to you on MetaField version 2023.4, if you follow my cursor. So if you're watching this in the future and things might look a little bit different than what I presented to you, just double check the version because things might change as we provide upgrades to MetaField. If you have any questions, please reach out to customer success manager, support, lots of ways to get help. And do remember that there are help pages up here that you can access. But yeah, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.